as technology got better, other people figured out how to go get them, and that lost its value. Salt. You probably heard the saying, he's worth his weight in salt, or he did his work, it's worth his salt. That's because in the Roman legion days, they got paid in salt, because salt was good for preserving food, it had a lot of uses, and it was kind of hard to get. But all these technologies, all these things, technology made easier to get. When it got easier to get, it lost its value, okay? But then, they came up with gold and silver. And this has been money for a long time. It's hard to get, it's a limited supply. I'm still kind of confused on that limited supply. They've been mining this stuff for about 5,000 years, I think, and they still haven't come close to running out. So I'm still confused on that limited supply. But this was money for a while, for a long time. Still a lot of people use it for a store of value, a way to keep your money, a hedge on inflation. Then, this is what we think of money today. And this is what everybody thinks of money, is currency. Money, we went from gold, you took gold, and you wanted to spend your gold, and I walked into a place, I said, hey, I want to buy that. If I had a bar of gold, I got to chunk off a piece, you got to weigh it, whatever. So what they did was they took gold to the vault, and people gave them paper notes for the gold. If you've seen old money, you'll see on there, gold certificate, silver certificate. So if I had $5 gold certificate, I had a note that was worth $5 worth of gold. I could trade this note to you for your product, and you could take my $5 worth of gold, that note, to the bank, and get out of the vault $5 worth of gold. Because gold, let's just face it, you don't want to go trucking around with a bar of gold. It's kind of heavy. If you've ever held gold coins. So that was the way money was developed. It was backed by gold. You had paper currency to take care of the gold that represented the gold. But a lot of you don't realize the gold standard, which is what our dollar was based on, was invented by Isaac Newton in like 1650 or something. This has been around a long, long time. A real long time. This is the same guy that discovered gravity. That's how long it's been around. And it worked really, really well for a long, long, long time. But then, Tricky Dick, President Nixon, everybody calls him Tricky Dick for all he did. What he really did that was tricky was he took us off the gold standard. During your whole lifetimes, dollar bills never been based on gold. He took us off the gold standard. That was the biggest trick he did on us. It was only supposed to be temporary. They thought that actually people would go crazy, but no one said much of anything. So we're still on the gold standard. So that was the biggest thing he did to ruin this economy, was taking us off the gold standard. Now the dollar is just of value because the United States government says it's of value. And if some country tries to replace the petrodollar, which we have now, they end up in a bad shape. Now, because of Nixon, we have fiat money. Any money can be all money's fiat money. The pound, the euro, the dollar, it's all fiat money. Fiat means it's money because it's Latin for because I said so. So money is money because the governments say so. So term for it is inconvertible paper money made legal, tender by a government decree. So that's what money is. It's nothing. It's something backed by the government that they say it's money. Used to be sound money. We don't have sound money anymore. Now, in 2008, we had the financial crisis. Banks started failing, housing bubble busted, everything was going to hell in a handbag. So, what did happen? U.S. government said, banks, lending institutions, stock markets, you all did a terrible job, outrageously bad job of keeping everything together. So, we're going to take money from the taxpayers and give it to you because you're too big to fail. You can't go broke. So we have to keep you in business because you're so bad at staying in business. So they took the money from all of us, gave it to these corrupt banks and everything. Tons of it gave it to banks overseas. But they took it from us. So at that same time, someone named Satoshi Nakamoto. We don't know if it was a guy, we don't know if it was a girl, we don't know if it was a group of people, but they used the name Satoshi Nakamoto. They came out with Bitcoin. They didn't invent everything that was in Bitcoin. A lot of it, people have been working on e-currency, e-cash, e-gold for a long time, but they never could make it all work. And this group or this person or whatever, they figured out how to make it work. And so at the same time all this happened, they came out. Now we know that he was upset about the banking crisis and all this money being given away, because in the first block of the Bitcoin blockchain, he left this message for us. The Times, January 3rd, 2009, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. This is the message he left in there. Whoever it was left this message in there for us. Now that message comes from the Times newspaper. So he was really not happy, I think, with how the economy was going and trying to tell us. Who knows what he was trying to tell us, but that's what he told us, okay? So, this is the Bitcoin white paper, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. If you see that title, and a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, that's saying that Bitcoin was meant to be money. It was meant to be used as a cash system for trading cash, but what has happened is a little bit different. It's become an investment or a store of value, and people now are investing in it. Why not? It's going up 200% a year, every year on an average, since its creation. So you didn't have to buy a whole bunch of Bitcoin to get rich. So people, and also, you know, it's got its highs and lows. Like, what are we down today? 20% over the last day or two. So it goes up and down, but it's too volatile really for cash right now. So people are investing in it. More people are investing in it than using it for cash. As that price gets higher, once it reaches maybe $10 trillion where gold is at, and market cap, maybe that'll slow down. But I want you to note about a $100,000 pair of sunglasses. I always think this is pretty good. My friend who got me into Bitcoin a long time ago, he wanted to spend some Bitcoin. He really did. He had this cash, he had this electronic cash, he wanted to spend this electronic cash, so he bought a pair of sunglasses. Well, today, with what Bitcoin's done since he cashed in his Bitcoin, those sunglasses now cost him $100,000. So he keeps those on his fireplace mantle as a reminder never to spend his Bitcoin anymore. So, you know, Bitcoin has a tendency to make you wish you never spent it. Now, the computer technology today, fiat money, like I said, is the money we all have. It's not backed by anything. It's really all digitized. It's all ones and zeros. You hardly touch your money anymore. You use credit cards, direct payment on your bank accounts, you know, most things like that. You hardly touch money. So it's all digital money nowadays. And Bitcoin is a digital money, but it's not controlled by any government. So it doesn't matter what happens to a government, Bitcoin does fine and continues going. Now the problem when people were trying to make it before Satoshi Nakamoto came out with Bitcoin, when they were trying to make digital gold before, is you gotta realize Bitcoin's a digital file. That's all it is a file on your computer. And if you have a file on your computer, it's like a photograph. You know, on your computer, JPEG or PNG. If you want another one, you just make a copy of it. So that was a problem with eCash or eGold before. You know, I could have $1 and just keep making copies of the dollar, and just by making copies, I could be a millionaire. So they had to solve this problem. Banks, on one hand, they don't have any problem with this. They run a ledger, and they've run a ledger for a long time. It's a centralized ledger that the bank runs. And the banks, people trust the banks, trusted them more in the past probably than they do today. But they trust the banks trust their computers. So a centralized ledger has worked real well for a long time, keeping who owns what money, who's transferred money to who, things like that. So they had to come, that was what they couldn't overcome, was how to do the ledger, to track who owned electronic money. And then they came out with the blockchain, which is a decentralized ledger. So there are millions of computers around the world all on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's the biggest computer network in the world. And every computer has a copy, every computer on this network has a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, of all the transactions that are happening. So if you try to spend some money, everybody records it. And if you try to spend that money again, well, they're gonna say, hey, wait a second, Joe spent this money already. So everybody's got a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain or the ledger system, and that's a decentralized ledger. There's just too many computers that have a copy to fool a computer. So you don't have a centralized person like a bank taking care of it now, making a percentage off of it, or telling you if you can spend your money or you can't spend your money. I don't know if you've ever had this happen. If you have Bank of America, you may have. Have you ever tried to buy some Bitcoin or had some money that you sold some Bitcoin, put in your account, and found out your bank account was closed? I mean, that's what can happen with a centralized banking system. Now, just to show you another way of showing you, there's the bank in orange. They control everything. Decentralized, everybody's working together to control everything. Bitcoin is trackable. A lot of people think about Bitcoin and they think about crime. I think because some of the first times Bitcoin was used for a reason of value was with Silk Road, which was selling a website that sold drugs and things like that. But Bitcoin probably is an easier way to get caught nowadays than using cash. So if you're a real criminal, I don't think you're going after Bitcoin. You're going after maybe an altcoin like Monero or Zcash, but not Bitcoin. Now I want to get into mining real quick because this is how Bitcoin is distributed, but this is kind of a big topic. As you notice, I'm just highlighting a lot of things here. I'm not going into depth. I just want to give everybody an idea of what this is about. But mining Bitcoin is how new Bitcoin is distributed into the market, basically. And Bitcoin mining is the backbone of the Bitcoin network. Miners provide security and they confirm Bitcoin transactions. And without the Bitcoin miners, the network would be attacked and would be dysfunctional. The role of miners is to secure the network and process every Bitcoin transactions. And for this service, the people running the mining are rewarded with newly created Bitcoin and transaction fees. So you used to be able to mine Bitcoin with just a laptop. You know, this Bitcoin mining is really computers doing a mathematical formula, trying to find an answer to a mathematical problem. That's all they're doing. And whoever finds it first is rewarded. Then it got harder, so they were using graphic cards. Gamers really hated that in 2017, 16, and 15 or whatever, because they were taking up all the gaming cards and they couldn't get cards for their computers. Now they're done with ASIC miners with an application-specific integrated circuits. And these things do one thing. They mine Bitcoin. That's it. If you quit mining Bitcoin, you can't really do anything else with it. You got a heavy paperweight. When a new version comes out that's faster, and everybody switches to the new version, you have the old ones, and you can't do a lot with it. Now, if you're thinking about mining Bitcoin, you got to realize, first of all, your regular computer's not going to be strong enough, but you're going to be mining against someone like this, who has just warehouses full of mining machines all working together to mine Bitcoin in a pool. So mining Bitcoin is kind of hard nowadays and expensive to do. You've got to really be in the game full time. If you want to mine Bitcoin, you'd be better off mining some altcoin and then exchanging that for Bitcoin when you got some of it. That'd be the way you'd want to do that. But that's what mining is. Now, there are only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever be in existence. So it is a limited supply, and that's one of the things that gives it value. This is a poster that came out some time ago, because the thing to do before Bitcoin got to this price, your goal was to get 21 Bitcoin. Because only 1 million people in the world could possibly ever have 21 Bitcoin. So it was called the 21 Club, or the Million Club, because you had 21 Bitcoin. So if you ever are watching YouTube or a video and you see this on the wall, he's probably got 21 Bitcoin at least, because he wanted to be a member of the 21 Club. So now I think they're doing 14.5 or something. The numbers drop as it gets expensive and gold people try to reach the join. I want to get into the halving. The halving is real important in Bitcoin, and most people don't understand the halving, but it happens every 4 years. Every 4 years, the amount of new Bitcoin, the amount of Bitcoin that's out of that 21 million that's distributed, cuts in half. So while the volume is going up on people wanting Bitcoin, like right now we have corporations buying Bitcoin, companies buying Bitcoin, people buying Bitcoin, maybe nation states are starting to buy Bitcoin. The amount that's on the market is cut in half. So you have more demand, less Bitcoin. That's what's causing the price to go up to the point it is right now, maybe higher. But originally when Bitcoin came out, 50 Bitcoin were issued every 10 minutes. Then it dropped in 2012 to 25 were issued, 2016, 12 and a half, 2020, where we're at now, 6 1/4 every 10 minutes, 2024, 3 1/8 will be issued. So like I said, the number of Bitcoin available in the market is shrinking rapidly. But the amount of demand is going up, and I think everybody's heard, supply and demand. That's the thing, and that's where we're at right now in Bitcoin. Another thing I think is interesting is the amount of Bitcoin that's been released. December this year, 90% of all the Bitcoin that will ever be released is out in the world. 95% will be released by 2025, 99% February 2030, 99.5 2047, and in 2105, the last whole Bitcoin will be released. Then people will be mining and all fighting for fractions of a Bitcoin. And the last bit of all the Bitcoin will be released by 2139. There'll be no more new Bitcoin coming out. Now, miners make their money mining, getting Bitcoin. So what happens to the miners? People always ask me. They aren't going to be having any money. They can't get any Bitcoin. It's all out there. By that point in time, they make their money off fees, because they get transaction fees also. So hopefully the fees kick in at that time, or that's the goal. As I said earlier, there are 21 million Bitcoin. Of that 21 million Bitcoin, approximately 4 million they say are lost. A guy threw away a laptop with 4,500 Bitcoin on it in New Jersey. It's ended up somewhere. Someone lost the password to their wallet with 5 Bitcoins. But if you do this all together, they say it's approximately, I always see 4 to 6 million lost or something like that. So I'm going to use 4 million. So really, you have Satoshi Nakamoto, the guy who invented Bitcoin, he has 1 million. The first 1 million he kept. Whoever he is, he's rich, but he's never spent one, moved one, touched one. So that's why a lot of people think he may be dead. I don't know if a lot of people think he's dead. Some people think he might be dead. So if you take those numbers away, really there's only about 16 million Bitcoin on the market, not 21 million Bitcoin on the market. Now, who will benefit most from Bitcoin to begin with is really going to be third world countries. We all may benefit because we all going to make a lot of money by owning Bitcoin, and it goes up to $100,000, $200,000 or whatever. But in the U.S., there's a bank on every corner. Some corners have 3 banks, 4 banks. But we got a ton of banks here in the U.S. But Africa, South America, that's not the way it is. So it's hard to get banks in those countries. But most everybody has a phone in these countries. If you have a phone and internet, you have a bank, you are your own bank. So you see shirts that say BYOB around crypto things, that stands for Be Your Own Bank. So you can be your own bank with Bitcoin just by using a phone and control your own money. So that's why I say third world countries will be the first place to be helped the most. Stores, more and more stores are starting to accept Bitcoin. I have a store in Dallas, Texas. I accept Bitcoin. I do my conference. I accept Bitcoin. I love it when someone pays me in Bitcoin. My first conference I did 4 years ago, I had one sponsor that paid me $10,000 in Bitcoin when Bitcoin was $7,000. So I was really excited I had a sponsor, and we charged $10,000. But now, that's like $80,000 or something. So I'm really excited now. So I think that's why a lot of people who take Bitcoin want to store and keep Bitcoin. I've noticed some conferences, Bitcoin 2021, that's here in June. If you pay to go to the event that's $1,000, if you pay with Bitcoin, it's like $800. So obviously they want Bitcoin for some reason. They're giving a pretty tremendous discount to get your Bitcoin. So, but more and more stores are starting to take Bitcoin. So we've kind of gone over what Bitcoin is, how it's new. People are trying to figure it out. A lot of people don't know. I want to go over this real quick because I think this is probably the most important part. I think it's important to know what money is, but I think this is probably the most important part of my talk is having a wallet. I talked to a lot of people who have Bitcoin. Like a good friend of mine bought some in 2017 on Coinbase. I said, where do you have your Bitcoin now? He goes, oh, it's on Coinbase. So you need to realize an exchange is not a bank. It's a place you buy Bitcoin at. It's not a bank. It doesn't have FDIC insurance. If they close up and go out of business, like Mt. Gox did quite a few years ago, you're just pretty much out of luck. So you really need to move your money off an exchange if you have it sitting on an exchange. And I want to use this as an example of what happened to me. This was a site called Dropbit that came out in 2017. It's really pretty technology. If you had someone's Twitter page, Twitter name, you could just say, I want to send at Joe Thomas $50 worth of Bitcoin. That's all you had to do. And it would send them a message, and they would get this message. Dropbit created this, it sent them a message showing my Twitter handle that I sent them, tell them I sent them $50 worth of Bitcoin, and all they had to do was open up their account, receive the Bitcoin. Now, I met the people who ran Dropbit in San Francisco, and they said, hey, we want to sponsor your conference. We'll give you $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, but we don't want a table. We don't want to do any of that. We don't want a signage. We'd rather you share this $1,000 worth of Bitcoin with people. Have contests on your Twitter page and for $25 or $50 or whatever. They thought that would get them more usage of people like seeing the name Dropbit over and over. I was like, fine. Sounds like a good deal to me. I'm not losing any square footage at my event on a table. And people were seeing about my conference and about you. It's a win-win deal. So I started giving away their Bitcoin. And people were excited. I was giving away $100 worth of Bitcoin. All you had to do was retweet the message, and I just draw at random a person, and they won $100 worth of Bitcoin. So now they've got quite a bit worth of Bitcoin. So one day I went to the site, and guess what? It was gone. They got shut down by the government because whoever was running the site was doing another operation that was illegal money laundering, and they shut down everything they did. So I had $172 worth of Bitcoin in the wallet on this site that was built into it. I wasn't transferring it off because I was giving it away, and I had to have it on this wallet to give it away. Now, let's look at that. So that is 2,358 Satoshis. And Satoshis, by the way, are 100 millionth of a Bitcoin. So that's that many Satoshis. Let's go look at the price today. So today, just like 3 years later, that $200-some has gone to $1,289 worth of Bitcoin. So I'm kind of seeing this as a perfect example of why you don't want to leave something on exchange. There's nothing I could do. You know, I contacted them, I never heard back. I guess they're in prison, I don't know. So if you have Bitcoin on someone else's site, it's really not your Bitcoin, it's their Bitcoin. You know, like I said, the bank is, or the exchange is not a bank. That's not where you keep your Bitcoin at, unless you're just lazy. I think so many people are just used to being taken care of by banks. You know, we've grown to be taken care of that we think that they're going to take care of us, and they're not. So, not your keys is the same, not your Bitcoin. So please, get a wallet if you have some Bitcoin, don't leave it on there. Now this was interesting also, I saw Michael Saylor saying this about Bitcoin. And he was talking about trillion-dollar networks. And his thing was, once a company reaches $1 trillion, it's pretty hard for it to go out of business. That it's made it to that magical level that you're going to have a hard time killing it off. Microsoft, I think they're going to be here for a while, took 44 years to become $1 trillion network. Apple, 42 years. Amazon, 24. Google, 22. Bitcoin only took 12 years to become $1 trillion network. So there are no other $1 trillion networks. That's it. That's all there are. So Bitcoin is global, running everywhere on Earth, and it's been growing 200% a year. But according to some of those beliefs, once you hit that $1 trillion value, you pretty much are ingrained. You're going to be here for a while. You've made it to the point that you're going to be here. So what is Bitcoin? It's a decentralized digital currency we went over. Since Bitcoin doesn't have a home country or a country of origin, it has benefits that fiat currencies do not offer. If an economy somewhere fails, somewhere in the world, or a government changes, Bitcoin won't be affected like fiat currency. You won't see, for instance, Zimbabwe. Oh my gosh, they got like a $100 trillion bill in Zimbabwe. And people always go, when I tell people that, or I show them one, they go, but that's Zimbabwe money. Well, believe me, when they first printed money in Zimbabwe, they didn't say, let's start with $100 trillion bills. You know, they started with regular amounts. They just had to keep making bigger bills because people could only carry so much money in a wheelbarrow. You know, it's like the lady in Venezuela was carrying a wheelbarrow full of money down the street to get some coffee at the store. And the reporter said, ma'am, aren't you really scared someone's going to steal all this money out of your wheelbarrow on the way to the store? She goes, no, I'm scared they're going to steal my wheelbarrow, then I can't tote my money around. So, I mean, that stuff happens. It's kind of a crazy thing. I also want to recommend a couple things. I recommend this book. This is the best book I've ever read on Bitcoin. I made a short link for it, cryptocousins.com/book. It's the Bitcoin standard by Safety and Moose. He goes over money, he goes over Bitcoin. You can get an audiobook copy. This is the best book I've ever seen about Bitcoin. So I recommend that to everyone. I wanted to leave y'all with a few things that might be handy too. Everybody loves free Bitcoin. That's the best Bitcoin, is free Bitcoin. This is Lolly. I made a short link, GaryLeland.com/Lolly. But using this site, you can buy things. If you get the Google plugin that goes with this, when you buy something, they've got thousands of companies across the country that give you rebates in Bitcoin by using this plugin on your Chrome browser. So this is a really good tool. I actually got a hotel room back in 2017 somewhere. Bitcoin's going up so much that the Bitcoin I got back paid for the room. So that's what happens on these things. This is another one, Fold. Fold gives you a debit card. It's just a debit card that runs through, and you hook it to your bank account, and you just transfer money to it. But when you buy it, you get free Bitcoin every time you buy something with the Fold card. So, and these are great people too. I like these people a lot. So the Fold, you get 5,000 sats just for signing up. But if you get this for a while, you'll see what happens. The amount of Bitcoin that you get free for doing stuff starts going down over time. Where maybe at one point you got 5,000 sats, then you got 2,000 sats, and you get that. But as Bitcoin goes up, the amount they give you goes down. But these are all great things because you get free Bitcoin. Who doesn't want free Bitcoin? And this is SwanBitcoin.com. You use the /Gary, they'll give you $10 worth of Bitcoin free. I like to recommend this because this is for dollar cost averaging. That's been proven to be the best way to buy Bitcoin is with dollar cost averaging. You just set it, say I'm going to buy $10 a week, $50 a week, $100 a week, whatever your budget applies, and you just let it happen. Automatically, they pull the money from your account, they buy it. Dollar cost averaging is what it's called. So instead of taking a chance on buying Bitcoin when it's up here, it drops down here, you're trying to buying it in the middle of the road. You'll have some highs and lows, but on the average, you'll be in the middle. But what a lot of people do is they start buying with Swan, and they're buying at $60,000, and then Bitcoin goes down to 50 or 40, and they quit buying it. And don't realize now they're getting Bitcoin on sale. And they quit buying, and when it goes back up, they start buying again. So you just kind of set it at what you can afford, what your extra cash is that you want to put into Bitcoin, and you just let happen. What I have noticed, because they email you every time they buy Bitcoin for you, they say, hey, today is Monday, you're set up for every Monday, you'll get some Bitcoin today, you bought $10 worth of Bitcoin today. I've noticed that most people I turn on to this, rather than just turning them onto exchange to go buy it, they end up buying more. They end up raising their amount because they start getting forced to learn about Bitcoin because they're getting it every month. It's in front of their face. And so they end up buying more. If you want to get someone into Bitcoin, get them dollar cost averaging because this keeps it in front of their face. So I have a friend, my friend from second grade, I got him into Bitcoin back, as I said, in 2017. I said, how much did you buy to him last week? It was about $300 worth. I said, and you buying more? He goes, I never looked at it again. So then I said, once you start dollar cost averaging, and gave him this, within a month he called me up and said, hey, I bought $10,000 worth of Bitcoin today. Because he started seeing it and getting more interested in following it and learning about it. So I love dollar cost averaging. And that's it. That's the spill. I'm ready to answer questions if you have any. I know I was quick and sweet at that, but I don't want to waste your time. It's just a brief overview. Does anyone have any questions about Bitcoin or any of those? I'd be happy to answer. If not, yeah.
As banks are closing your accounts because they see what you're buying, what alternatives are
Well, switch bank. Yes, I called ours. I did a purchase of Bitcoin in our bank. It's funny, I did a purchase some time ago, and then Kathy, my wife, called me up like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, goes, did you change our password? I said, no, I hadn't touched the password. She goes, I can't get into the bank account. I said, well, I just bought Bitcoin like an hour ago. And she called the bank up, and they said, oh, sorry, it was an accident. We didn't mean to, and they opened it back up. So I don't know if it was an automated thing that if you bought from certain accounts or whatever. I know a lot of people who've had their bank accounts closed. And, you know, I guess if you've got a strong enough account and you've been there long enough, they'll open you back up. But if you're a marginal account, if they don't care if you have or not, then they're probably just going to shut you down. So you just have to go somewhere else and get a bank account. There's not a lot you can do. I mean, it's their bank. It's actually their money. You know, a lot of people don't realize when you put that money in there, it's not your money anymore. It's their money. You know, once you put it into the bank account. So they don't have to give it back to you, I guess, technically. But not a lot you can do.
Can you touch on wallets a little bit, what you recommend?
Yeah, I recommend the Treasure wallet. I like that wallet a lot. There are a lot of wallets, but I think that's like the easier wallet to use. The interface is easy to work with. So I like the Treasure wallet. If you want a desktop wallet, the Exodus wallet's a pretty nice desktop wallet. It's easy to use, it's got a clean interface, it's a good wallet. But those are the ones I like. You have Open Dime, that's kind of a little harder wallet, I think, for people who are beginning to get into. But I think the easiest wallet of them, I think the easiest probably is the Treasure wallet. Then you can do multi-sig, where you have someone else help you on the other end. It's a 2 or 3 wallet signature needed. That's a little more complicated too. But I like the Treasure wallet. Anything else? Well, I hope you've learned something about money. That was the most important thing I like to get across, is I don't think people realize what money is. You know, I don't know why I think that's really important. Because I think if you understand what money is, or what money isn't, it makes you understand the need for Bitcoin more. By realizing that, money is not yours. I mean, it can be taken away in a heartbeat, so I think money is real important to understand that, so you know what Bitcoin is. So I want to thank everyone for coming. I hope y'all all had a great conference and everybody's enjoyed it. Did anyone go to the rave last night? That's why you're here. You didn't, those guys are also sleeping. They got here back from the rave at like 6, I heard. So that's why you guys are here. You didn't go, So thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it.